Welcome back from this report, dear viewers. We have been joined by our second and final guest for this evening, Yasmeen Alsharhan, Head of Cooperation with Civil Society Department. Good evening and welcome to Hala Kuwait.
Hello, Rita. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Today we're going to be talking about something that's very heavy and important, especially when it comes to our society, and we're going to be talking about Nazaha. So in the beginning, on December 9th, Nazaha is preparing to launch a conference. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, on December 9th of every year, it's considered the International Anti-Corruption Day. It's a UN day, as we like to call it. Every year, Nazaha has a different program or a different activity to highlight specific important matters. This year, it's launching its fourth forum entitled Measures of Corruption and Managing its Risks.
Yes.
The topic is considered a hot topic in the international world of corruption and corruption prevention. So we are cooperating this year with UNODC, that is the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime,
yes,
and the United Nations Program, UNDP, the Development Program, in bringing to the light the best practices in terms of prevention of corruption and fighting it.
That is really amazing. Of course, I can imagine the amount of effort it would take to organize something like that every year. So how can public institutions actually benefit from the experience of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes, especially when it comes to combating corruption?
Okay, so the UNODC is considered the guardian of the UNCAC, or what we call the United Nations Anti-Corruption Convention. They are the entity that supervises the implementation of that convention. They have about 20 offices in 150, that covers 150 countries. Wow. They provide technical assistance, they provide the best practices. So for us to partner with them in launching this international day is a way of us, let's say, marketing the tool that they provided lately in the field of measuring corruption and managing its risk, and that is what they launched a self-assessment manual for public organizations to assess the risks of corruption in their businesses.
Yes, definitely. So I want to know more about the local and international institutions. So how can the cooperation between both sides be enhanced when it comes to corruption?
Usually the cooperation between local and international agencies happens in the sharing of information,
yes,
whether it's intelligence in corruption cases or information regarding studies, research, best practices. Also, they always cooperate in terms of capacity building.
Yes.
Local organizations usually benefit from international expertise, especially if it's coming from international agencies like the UNODC.
Definitely. And what about Nazaha's efforts? Let's focus on that a bit more. So what is Nazaha doing in the field for assessing corruption?
Well, Nazaha relies on different sources of information in terms of measuring corruption. It relies on the key KPIs of its national anti-corruption strategy. Nazaha launched Kuwait's anti-corruption strategy back in 2019, and that strategy comes with a spectrum of KPIs, key point indicators of success of each program. Also, it relies on international indices. Nazaha's team follows 18 of those, whether it's in terms of governance, corruption prevention, corruption perception indexes, and other indices. Also, Nazaha conducts its own research, surveys, opinion surveys in any topics related to corruption and integrity.
Definitely. So why is it important to be assessing corruption, especially when it comes to the public sector?
Assessing corruption, first, it tells us where to look at. Where assessing corruption also gives leaders the data needed to have informed decisions. They can decide based on solid data, where to allocate resources, what kind of strategies they should implement in order to manage that risk. It also, when you measure risk and then manage it, therefore you're hindering corruption. Usually corruption actually affects economical growth.
Right.
So when you're managing that risk, you are actually promoting economical growth, promoting development. So it works on several aspects in terms of overall national management of organizations, and specifically on managing corruption risks.
Which I think really shows us why risk management is really important in this case specifically, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. So what is the role of the Kuwaiti anti-corruption strategy in assessing and managing the risks?
Okay, they usually anti-corruption strategies, corruption measures, and risk assessment, they all work together hand in hand.
Yes.
The anti-corruption strategies, it's a comprehensive plan that works on managing the risks of corruption. You cannot manage the risk of corruption without knowing where corruption happens and what kind of corruption you're facing.
Of course.
And this is where measuring of corruption is important, because it is quantifying the corruption. It tells you where it's most likely to happen and what kind of corruption you're facing. Is it financial? Is it administrative? Is it political? And then after that comes the controls of corruption, or how we manage that risk.
Yes.
So the management of the risk is by putting the right controls on every risk in every institution, and making sure that the strategy is implemented in the best way possible in order to achieve all the goals that you want.
Makes a lot of sense. Yasmeen, thank you so much for explaining all of this to us this evening and for being with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Dear viewers, we had with us Yasmeen Alsharhan, Head of Cooperation with Civil Society Department. Up next, we have a report from Desman.